Greetings, Terrarians, Khaios here. Today I'm bringing you a dead devourer, apparently. Today I'm bringing you another viewer-submitted world. If you are new to the channel, about a month ago I asked my viewers to email me some of the world saves where I take an aspect of that world and add or change something on it. I'm no longer taking submissions for the series as I have enough builds to last me until next summer, but once a week I'll do a video here where I build on 2 or 3 of the worlds and then send them back to the original owners. That means the world saves will not be available for public download, as I want the original viewers to feel like they have something unique. I'll be working on 2 of these worlds today, so let's go ahead and take a look at the first. The first world has quite a bit of variety to it in terms of theme. We have several buildings that kind of look like they might be medieval. But over here off to the right, there's a theme of build that kind of just caught my eye, and that's going to be an Asian or Japanese theme. Now, it's a style that I love to build, but I don't do it often. So I think for today, I'm going to be doing a Japanese build. And with the 2 water features on either side, I think I might reduce the size of this pond and create a bridge over it. And then on the other side, maybe do something like a hot springs area, so kind of fill in this area down here with some dirt and some stone and just kind of make a hot springs bath. So now I have some terrain changes done. As you can see, I completely filled in the massive gap over here on the right side, and I created 2 small divots which I'll be filling with water, and then I converted some areas into mud just because I feel like the lime colored grass will look a lot better in this Japanese style build than anything else. And I placed 1 foundation here, which will be the smaller of the 2 buildings, and then 1 here, which will be the larger of the 2. And I'm going to be placing false foundations under them in just a little bit. But over here, I kind of expanded the pond more than I thought I would. I was thinking I would reduce it, but then I realized because they have this massive tower of fishing crates over here that they probably use this pond for fishing, and I didn't want to get rid of that. So instead of reducing the size of it, I'm going to leave it to where it has at least 300 tiles of water so that they can get the max out of fishing from here. And instead of doing a stone bridge over it like I was originally planning to do, I'm going to be doing a rope bridge, which they will be able to fish through the planks on the bridge, and it shouldn't interrupt or break any of their fishing pond. So I'm going to go ahead and get started on adding the bridge and then filling the foundations in and then adding some water here and building a small tree, and I'll get back to you before I move on to the houses themselves. And now we have a decent looking rope bridge. If you're curious how this design is done, I do have a tutorial out on it, and I'll leave a link to that video in the description below. The most important thing about this bridge, and it might take a couple of casts to do, is that we can fish in between the planks because there's technically gaps between each one of these steps. But the way the bridge design is made, you could still walk across the bridge without falling through it, but we're able to fish through it as well. Over here, I've completed the false foundations and the first floor of the buildings, even though I haven't started the buildings themselves yet. The floor is made out of some ebonstone brick painted gray, connected to some brown painted rich mahogany. Beneath the stone slab, I have some white painted blue tiled wall, some gray painted rich mahogany fence to let some light in here so you can actually see the details, and some stone that's also been used with the Staff of Regrowth to give this green moss on it. And then in between that, I just have some lime painted strange plants. And I did that for both of the floors here. And then I kind of created a little stone pillar here with a little bit of mud. Eventually some vines will probably grow from this patch of mud, which will add even more detail to it. I did add some water here. And then I made this small little tree using some living rich mahogany that's been painted brown and actuated so we could walk in front of it. And then just some mahogany leaves that have been unpainted with some living leaf wall painted line behind it to kind of match. I wanted to make this tree look like it was growing on top of a stone, so there's technically no blocks down here. I did place some stone wall that's been painted white to kind of match the stone and make it look a little bit more like this tree was growing on top of the stone itself. And now the build is complete. I added some crates, barrels, and lamps to the docks just to make them feel like they're a little bit more used. I built the house up. If you would like to know how I do this style of Asian house or Japanese style house, I do also have a tutorial video on that, which I'll leave in the description below. So I'm not going to cover that in today's video just to save time. But I did move the Dryad back in, I did move the Tavern Keep back in. It looks like he's going for a walk in the spring at the moment, but everything is complete. This next world has a clash of nature, good and evil, and it's really interesting. Already you can see here we have a natural tree that kind of looks like it's being converted by some hollow. We see some crimson and corruption elements in here. It's really interesting. In the middle we have this really creepy looking crimson tree with a gigantic eye in it that I absolutely love, which I might do something with, but I'm not going to redo the entire tree because I don't want to kind of kill the spirit that this build already has. I think I might just tweak this eye to make it look a little bit more evil and kind of make it look a little less blocky. But moving on, we have this pit here. I've already done a bridge today, so I'm not sure if I want to do another. I'll consider it. I am considering it, I should say. And over here we have a graveyard and a rather large church, and I'm thinking what I'm going to do is alter this church. Now this is the spawn point for the world, so this will be the first place that you spawn in and the first thing that you see. And it's got a really interesting roof design, which I kind of want to take, but I kind of want to make it a more of a stone structure. And it has a nice looking cross on top, but you can't see it from all the way down here, and I'm even zoomed out all the way. So what I'm thinking I'm going to do is make the church quite a bit smaller, maybe to where the cross is at the very top of the screen, and then I'm going to build a graveyard on either side. I've now prepared the terrain. I'm thinking about when I build the church that I might put a couple of dead trees on one side or the other, or both. But for now, all I've done is slope the area. I want it to be relatively flat because I plan to place some gravestones here. So I don't want it to be too hilly. I did make it roll a little bit under the false foundation, and I will be doing a bridge here, I've decided. I've also done a little bit of stonework here. I created a waterfall area just because the original version did have a waterfall. I just decided to make it cascade a couple of times. And then for the corruption area, I kind of made it look like it was creeping its way out of the rock structure, and instead of having just black painted dirt in between, I decided to place some ash. Not only will that keep the color theme relatively the same, but it'll also prevent this corruption from spreading to the stone over time, because I assume that they want to have the biomes separated since they didn't build this in the corruption to begin with. Also, because I noticed a little bit of edit work perhaps, or at the very least some mods with these pots here within the tree, I've decided to go ahead and do a little bit of edit work myself, and that's going to be this rock wall that you see in the background. If you don't recognize the texture, there are actually 3 different kinds of natural generated rock walls that are currently unobtainable. You do need to use mods or edit to use them, but since the player's already been using mods or edit to place pots like this, I figured it would be okay to go ahead and do this myself. So I went ahead and finished up the big eye within this awesome crimson tree. I didn't touch any other parts of the tree because I didn't really want to take away from the overall aesthetic, because I do like the way that this tree looks a lot, and I didn't want to detract from that. So all I did was remove the tiles within the eye because they were solid blocks, and the blocks were blending in with the wood, the slime was blending in with the obsidian, etc, etc. And it just ended up looking really blocky and square and just not quite what I thought it could be. So instead, I deleted much of the blocks in here and reshaped it a little bit so it's a little bit more smooth and angular. And the way that I have this going is I have some solid tile here, which is the wood, and then a layer of wall here, which is white painted diamond gemspark block. Or wall. And then we have some deep red slime right here, which is a solid tile, And then in the middle we have more wall, which is some shadow painted obsidian brick wall, because it gives it a really dark look without any texture coming through. So the reason why I alternate between walls and tiles is because I can slope the tiles and not have those boxy edges anymore, and then actually place the walls behind it so there aren't any gaps in between. So if you were to slope the tiles in the previous version of this eye, there would be gaps in between those slopes. And with this, no gaps. So that's what I did to the eye. I think it looks pretty good. And we're gonna go ahead and move on to the bridge, which is rather ruined. Like I said, I wanted to look like it had started to fall apart, especially right here where the corruption is bleeding through. Pardon the rain, but the graveyard is complete. So I wanted to have mounds of dirt. Yes, I know that dirt would only be present in freshly dug graves. However, I thought it would be a nice aesthetic for the build, so that's what I went ahead and did. In order to have dirt without grass growing on top, I went ahead and used 4 blocks of clay painted brown, so the grass won't grow over it, but it looks exactly the same as dirt once it's been painted. Additionally, the original build had some bathtubs placed underneath any of the graves, and I thought that was a really nice touch. Instead of using the marble bathtub, which looked a little too fancy for my taste, I used some brown painted pearlwood baths just because I thought it looked more like a wooden casket. And so I went ahead and did that under each of the graves as well, just to keep with the original vision of this graveyard. As for the graves, I used all of the different grave markers that are available, as well as a few statues like the angel statue and the cross statue. And then I made some of these light posts using some gray painted rich mahogany fence with some gray painted wood and just some cage lanterns hanging from them. And so now we have this dark, creepy looking church, and I decided to make it mostly out of stone. So we have some ebon stone brick painted gray that's alternating with this gray painted palladium to give this texture. We have some iron fence that's been painted gray as well. I did want to throw a little bit of wood in here for colors, so we have dynasty wood plus the benches, and I decided to add a piano to it as well. And then using gothic tables and gothic workbenches painted gray with some living fire block on top, I wanted to kind of make these fire braziers which just light up the area. It makes it feel a little bit more, I guess, dark and creepy to me. And then we have a stained glass window up here. I didn't want red and purple bleeding through in terms of colors since I have this lime green painted roof. So what I ended up doing was using yellow and green stained glass that had been painted purple and red to give this sort of effect. And then at the very top of it all, I ended up making a wooden cross using some ebon wood fence and just some wood block. And that's going to do it for today. I just wanted to thank everybody that submitted a world to me for your continued patience as I get through these builds little by little. I will eventually do them all. And a big thank you to everybody for watching this video. I hope you all liked the builds. If you did, be sure to leave a like and a comment and consider subscribing to the channel. It really helps me out. There's going to be a special video on Saturday, so I'll see you all then. Catch y'all later. Happy building.